Beginning as an experiment led by Professor Lemuel Wilmoth, along with students from the National Academy, a membership organization was created, emulating the European atelier system where students would work in the studio of a professional artist. Classes began on the top floor of a building on the corner of 5th Avenue and 14th Street in September of 1875. The experiment was so successful that in 1892 the League relocated to its current home at 215 West 57th Street, eventually occupying the entire building. The printmaking program began in 1907 when Charles Henry White was hired to teach etching during a resurgence of interest in the medium. This was one of the first formal etching classes in the country. White was succeeded by Wojtek Preissig, followed by Ernest Haskell, and then by Henry Young. In 1922, Joseph Pennell was hired and began to create an expanded graphics program. His etching class was an immediate success, and another one was quickly added. In 1924, Eugene Fitch, Pennell's etching assistant or monitor, began teaching the evening class. Another one of Pennell's monitors, George Picken, also became an instructor, teaching printmaking from 1933 until 1942. Pennell began teaching lithography in his etching class, but it soon became overwhelming for him, so he took on Charles Locke as his lithography assistant, who, by 1925, was hired as an instructor of his own lithography class. This is believed to be the first formal lithography class in the country. In 1924, Pennell hired Alan Lewis as instructor of woodblock printmaking. By this time, Pennell had created one of the most comprehensive printmaking programs in the United States. Harry Wicke became instructor of etching in 1930. His student, Harry Sternberg, took over the class in 1933 and taught there for the next 30 years. Sternberg did much experimentation, developing new techniques, particularly in the medium of silkscreen, pushed it towards becoming a fine art medium. Unlike so many other printmakers who believed in limited editions, Sternberg saw silkscreen prints, also known as serigraphs, as a democratic medium to be offered as affordable, open-ended editions to raise awareness for the poor, the hungry, and the downtrodden. In 1930, the League allotted additional space to printmaking, but the purpose of allowing more time for the study of and making of more lithographic images, Charles Locke's monitor, Grant Arnold, was hired as a printer. Also, by this time, most of the printmaking instructors were teaching more than one printmaking medium in the same class. Will Barnett studied etching with Harry Wicke and lithography with Charles Locke. Barnett took over as lithography printer when Grant Arnold left the position in 1933. Barnett became instructor of lithography in 1941 and held that position until he became instructor of painting in 1954, retiring in 1979. Will Barnett was awarded the National Arts Medal by President Obama in 2011 at the age of 100. At the age of 99, he was honored at the Art Students League's annual Instructors' Dinner for his 100th year. A year later, he was honored again for his 100 years. The following year, he was yet again honored for his second century. Australian immigrant and dry point master Martin Lewis became an instructor in 1944 and remained until 1952. Armand Landeck instructed from 1948 through 49. Harry Sternberg was the only graphics instructor with Arnold Singer as a master printer at the League by the mid-50s. At that time, printmaking enrollment had waned due to many other printmaking workshops springing up in New York City, as well as being taught in colleges and universities. A new era in League printmaking came with a renewed interest in printmaking for artists and collectors in the mid-1960s. At that time, Chinese-born Song Moy was appointed instructor. He had studied printmaking with Sternberg at the League, as well as with Stanley William Hayter at Atelier 17, and was known for his experimental color woodcuts, serigraphs, and collotypes. Michael Ponce de Leon joined the faculty in 1966. He had studied with Sternberg and Barnett and was also experimental, inventing a hydraulic press that would make three-dimensional prints. Brazilian-born Roberto Della Monica, internationally known, became an instructor the following year. Ponce de Leon used photo etching in his work, but it was not until Deli Sacciolato took over his class in 1993 that photo techniques were formally taught. Specializing in photogravure as well as other photo techniques, Sacciolato had the League acquire a light exposure unit for printmaking. What began as an experiment 145 years ago has given us an amazing legacy that has influenced American art and beyond. Former student Robert Blackburn went on to found the legendary printmaking workshop in New York City that is still functioning years after his passing. At the beginning of the 1960s, another former student, Dara Antriazian, joined the newly established Tarramin Lithography Workshop in Los Angeles and went on to author with Clinton Adams the Tarramin Book of Lithography. Other former printmaking students include Paul Cadmus, Alexander Calder, Howard Cook, John Stewart Curry, Barnett Newman, Minna Citron, Antonio Frasconi, Don Freeman, and Charles White. The League had many non-printmaking students who later became printmakers. They had been greatly exposed to printmaking at printmaking class exhibitions and from the walls of the corridor on the third floor. Among them are Stowe Wingenroth, Reginald Marsh, Rockwell Kent, George Bellows, Robert Rauschenberg, Isabel Bishop, Romar Bearden, Louise Nevelson, Richard Estes, James Rosenquist, John Marin, Yasuo Kuniyoshi, and so many more, including myself. Of the League's current printmaking instructors, Michael Pelletieri was the first to arrive. He studied with Harry Sternberg and became the League's master printer from 1969 until 1977, when he became an instructor teaching each of the 4 basic printmaking processes. In 1995, Paris-born Sylvie Covey, who studied with Michael Ponce de Leon and Song Moy, took over Deli Sachelato's class and expanded upon teaching photo techniques such as photo etching, photolithography, new digital techniques, as well as traditional etching and lithography. I myself, Rick Pantel, arrived in 1996, taking over the morning weekday class, specializing in intaglio and relief techniques, traditional and experimental, as well as basic lithography. Bill Bankin joined us when the League began Sunday classes, further expanding the printmaking program. Bankin teaches the various intaglio techniques along with his own innovations involving aquatint, as well as relief and lithography. At this time, the League had not had a master printer of lithographs for many years, and the printmaking instructors were feeling overwhelmed for the same reasons as was Joseph Pennell 80 years earlier. In 2006, the solution was found by hiring Japanese-born Tomomi Ono, former student of Pelletieri and Pantel, as master printer and technical instructor. As a result, the enrollment for the study of lithography increased. On a final note, some years back when I became a League instructor, an acquaintance said to me, "Well, I hope you know that the really great artists were at the League 30 years ago." I answered, "That's what they said 30 years ago."